Good evening. Good evening, everybody, and welcome so much to this evening with Eileen Myles. My name is Eileen Myles A. I'm your chair for this evening. I'm going to tell you about the format of the event, do a little bio, and then Eileen is going to read for about 20-25 minutes, although I'm not going to keep a clock on it. We're going to have a wee chat after that for a wee while, 10-15 minutes, although again, you're going to probably have to stop me. And then there will be audience Q&A. There's going to be a roving mic. So while we're going on, please do think of questions or what you want to ask Eileen. This is your moment. So yeah, after the event, there's going to be a signing. Eileen's going to head over to that table over there. Please form an orderly queue. And we're going to be out of the building by 9. We're going to get kicked out. Yeah, thumbs up for Myri. So thank you to Lighthouse, thank you to City Arts Centre for having us, and thank you, audience, for being here, and the audience who are online. I read this book this week in the midst of a house move, and it was an incredible bam in the midst of a lot of chaos, but I have so many thoughts that I just wanted to write a couple of lines so I didn't go too much off-piste. A working life, which is what we're here to celebrate today, is rich with lyrics of the quotidian in both its simplicity and its universal appeal. Myles is a poet with an omnivorous appetite, where each poem can jolt between confessions, joy, sardonic humor, sorrow, barking, and sex. They have an artist's eye and a deft hand, charming the reader, seemingly off the cuff through each thoughtfully curated piece. In Kit Fan's own words, there's always a spark of surprise. I read you Eileen's bio before I invite her to go to the podium and read for us. Most of you won't need this, but I think in celebration of a working life, it's worthwhile reading. Eileen Myles is a poet, novelist, and art journalist whose practice of vernacular first-person writing has made them one of the most recognized writers of their generation. Pathetic Literature, which they edited, came out in fall of 22. Their newest collection of poems, A Working Life, is out now. Their fiction includes Chelsea Girls, which just won France's Inrockables Prize.
Nobody in English could say it.
I'm so sorry. For Best Foreign Novel, Cool for You, Inferno, and Afterglow. Writing on art was gathered in the volume The Importance of Being Iceland. Books of poetry include Evolution and I Must Be Living Twice. Their Super 8 road film, The Trip, is on YouTube. They live in New York and in Marfa, Texas. Please, everybody, give a very warm welcome to Eileen Myles.
Hi, you guys. Thank you for coming. You know, it's actually the light is shitty right here. It's clear.
Should we move you into the light?
Maybe let's remove this. Yeah, because like literally the light stops. Yeah, keep you over. Okay, drop down. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I feel. You know, I'm gonna. I feel. I've never read that Kavia before, but I felt like today it's just like every day is a horror in terms of the genocide that's going on, and then today for some reason it just felt worse than things I saw on my phone and just the ways it feels and stuff. So I've been attentive to like thinking about poetry and history and violence and there's the famous Adorno quote about there's no poetry after Auschwitz, which has provoked all these weird, like Paul Celan got paranoid, he thought he was talking about him, which he probably was in a way. And then Zizek was like, no, poetry's fine, there should be no prose after Auschwitz. Zizek, because he didn't like prose because prose was all lists, but I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that it seems like so much of the most interesting art now is lists like that. Did you see the film, I forget the name of it, the one that Steve McQueen made about Amsterdam? And he basically just shot Amsterdam interiors in the street, and then his partner, whose name I can't remember, did a book that was an amazing inventory of who lived in every apartment in Amsterdam during the occupation, and what happened to them, And so it's just this overwhelming inventory of occupation. And so smart because he just never says Gaza, but you can't help looking at that and flipping it into the present. So it was brilliant. So I feel like there's so much work like that, like Bolaño's, that middle section of 26 that's all about documenting all the femicides in Mexico. So anyway, so I've been writing poems that basically are cutting from my own mundane existence and then the horrible shit I see in my phone. So I'm just going to start with one poem that's not in this book, and it's called Them Palestinians. They had beds and rooms, they had socks and babies, they had fire. They had a toilet, they had a book, they had school, they had mustaches and cunts and bellies, they had feet and toenails and arguments and friends, they had hot soup, they had hunger, laughter, pain, cell phones, they had kids, they missed each other, they came home. It's wild up here. I'm not sure about this, but he was killed in his house with his family. I tie my shoes, going to the gym. Through this horrific experience, I'm bringing my recyclables down. Contacting people, they try every few minutes to call people in Gaza. I struck it against the edge of a chair in Tempe. Many medical journals write about genocide in Gaza and think it's okay. I have nothing for the baby. I randomly saw, we're not seeing the support from the medical community. They ignore the calls, they don't say Israel. He has died, they don't say he has been killed. I can't find my headphones or the band for the clamshell. I'm at tossing cards into an imaginary future in which my handwriting and my political thoughts are considered. This is prose, war is prose, the coldness of my pastimes is poetry, my safety. The what has been torn away from my fellow, my neighbors, my friends, is Palestine, is poetry. Poetry is home and the loss of it being robbed from a child, or the children of the Nakba who 75 years ago, later an old man walking south, it's rubble, home, streaming tears, tears are home. The black corner of the New Yorker under the comforter, I meditate with building in a corner of his raincoat, the gentle sway of the trees out my window. Like anime, Attack on Titan, the cute kids, swaying hair. I think movement, that's Japanese. Am I Japanese? Am I Palestinian? Thousands and thousands of round yellow and green leaves chattering. Seeing the little bloody baby being carried, the journalist who lost his entire family, my friend, the terrorist, shot in their car with his 3 little girls. They bombed my mother, they bombed me. Her little gold hoodie, her little mouth opening and closing. The change is quick, but revolution will take a while. I'm still in my pajamas, I'm so comfortable, home. Scarves wrapped on lamps, nothing disturbed, too full, too much tea, eggs. What else can I eat, or disturbed by not being hungry? 2 brothers chatting as they're rolled through a hospital, chatting, bandage on one's head, the other bloody. The photograph is lit, electricity, thank God, thank Allah. I wrote this book mostly during the pandemic, or a little before and then during, and it was, I've been kind of obsessed with this, that when I was in my 20s and 70s, it was just like, I was poor and I had all the time in the world and all my friends are poets and I just wrote all the time. And it was just like, really, it was amazing. And then for most of my life, I've been like, I want like my 70s back, how can I have that, And the pandemic, it was a horrible thing for some, like whole zip codes in New York were like wiped out. But it was also immensely silent and spacious and incredible. And I feel like I suddenly found myself in that time again. And it was so weird to be in a different body and all. So I feel like I didn't write this book before, but I wrote it again. And I got to be in that endless space, which was so different. Because I was working on a novel, and novels for me, like I'll be like alone working, and then I'll be like, I've got to see some people, and I didn't get that. So the novel got really blurry, but the poems just really held. So, and also I was, the narrative of, if a book is 3 or 4 years of living, it's also usually, for me, I tend to have 2 or 4 year relationships. So it was just like, there's like the falling in love, and then there's the breakup, and And that too, I feel like I then, as the book was coming out, I was like, oh my God, it's all about my ex, this is horrible. so I counted, and it's 30%. So bad. So I feel like reading some love, I'm gonna read some love poems tonight. This is called In You. How many minutes was that? I thought it was, I feel very protective of wood if it's living. You can rain on it, but in the sink it rots, so love it like a baby, worship the tree. Love the light bulb in many colors, the blonde for her brightness. Forgive me for the obvious, my love, deep and translucent, troubled. The candle, love the candle for its powerful tongue, the dog for his breath, whatever sex. Politeness brings me much. I plan for your death, mine is the end of the poem. It must be long, to direct, to multiply, steam and explode. Love the fork, its tines are how I want to be invaluable. Silly name. Love Texas like a dog in a hat. Do you know, look at the map of Texas, and that's what it looks like. A dog in a hat. This makes my poetry rise. Replace it with heat. Keel towards me, please. Be present. I wrote on you. I write with you. I sleep on you. Hold my love. Steam my flight. Bury me deep. I am one of you, loving you well, and the shame that brought us here. I write a big apology in one lifetime. I do little, open-ended at my best. Thank you for your time for this long wedding. This is called To Love. Do you only go to new places? Is it true? Did the planet just get born? You in your little legs and I in my tree in love. The baby crying is the bouncing plane, the strange wind that killed Bob. All of it is true, and I in my rot am having the time of my life. You mentioned I have a Puppet Road film that you should really just go on YouTube. It's called The Trip. But the puppets are puppets that I made when I was a kid. So there's one puppet who has an amazing named Casper. I mean, I made these puppets when I was 9. And so Casper has this amazing monologue. He comes to a realization at the end of the film, but I felt like it's a poem too, so I'm gonna read it. And yeah, I sort of go into a puppet voice. This is not the end of the story, oh no. I may begin my life as a college student, approximately 88 miles from the US-Mexican border, here on the white steps of Sul Ross University, named after a Confederate general. Here, if they accept me, I may study thought and meaning and study itself. I may study plankton and clouds, mountains, cell phones, and ghosts. But I am a ghost, born in Eileen's child hands, head of paper mache, a gown fashioned of soft cloth that Emma found. In a way, a puppet, a ghost truth, be told, is a zombie, the undead, never born, never dying, never arriving. I make common cause now with the slaves of the world, prisoners of our security state, and most abundantly, most locally today, America's prisoners of war, not immigrants, illegals, aliens, but refugees, children, women and men in jails and cages not far from here, a multitude, less visible than a ghost, more silent than a puppet. They are not criminals, these people made about by politicians, held away from friendship, pleasure, health, and safety in the dark, but refugees in a never-ending war this country wages against the poor and vulnerable, victims, descendants, recipients of our endless interventions in Latin America, our wars worldwide, and in our jails, detained at our borders, helped by our friend Israel, exporting their security craft around the world. Abolish all of it, the borders and the jails and the police state. Open the door, RIP, not rest in peace, but abolish the racist imperialist patriarchy. Abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it now. Who knew that a puppet would know that abolish it would become abolish it? So good. This is called September 7th, and it just begins with a very strong metaphor. I need to say that. The vagina of my life, this line, is so stretched out. Where am I? Hundreds of my students landed in Brooklyn like we did last week, but it was another church. I saw the fear in their faces as I was climbing the gates and demanding we make the next connection. It was an old church. The congregation was furious, ecstatic. Yes, this is a little crazy, lost, poor. Everyone, they needed an assignment. When did we last meet? When did we meet again? Is this just sentimental? Am I the priest? Describe the congregation. That's what I'll ask. It was a little like Hollandia. The churches were trains. They were nations homeless. They were punishment. We seem to gather here. Describe us. That's the only hope. Why are we out? Why aren't we home? No, it's us, and I know you very well. You seem to be following me. I brought you here. What do I want? It's cityless, it's godless, it's fatherless, it's motherless. It always feels the same, meeting at monuments. God asking for something, maybe. I lost my notebook, my computer died. I smell like fear. I didn't get any sleep. I wanted to be here. I couldn't keep watching that show. I finished the book about trees. Everything's stone in the name of God, but it's just us. Pointless at night. I'm not really at the helm. I can't be blamed. Did I ask you here? I just woke up like everyone in this swarm. It's my disease that I think I'm responsible. That's it. A class. It's not a reading. I'm not in charge. I said, over there, think. Give them purpose. Why did you come here tonight? Tell me what you see. Tell me who we are. What do we want? Come back here again next week or sometime. Show me what you did. Only the shrink asked if I said this to everyone. What did I say? Am I saying it now? Is that why we're here? Tell me next week, next month, next year. I'll send a mailing tomorrow. You'll know when to come. I'll know who you are. I won't forget anyone. If I seem like I would always be there, well, it just isn't true. You know, at a certain point, you hate the theme song, but you have to go on. This is after that. This is next. What did you like? I guess everyone's asking you that now. What do I like? All of us out here at night, not even looking for God, looking for religion, not even that, looking at churches, meeting here, looking back to see what I want. You can make me choose. It's not that I have a purpose. It's more like I don't want you to think I don't have one. It's not that I don't have sex, don't like it. I forget where it happens. I can fix that. I can stop while I'm traveling, just having a little bit with everyone the next time I see you all. Did you indeed dance under a tree with goats in the dark? That's it. I just thought that belongs in a book. This is called Pigs. In New York, we have alternate parking. Do you have that where you live? Where it's just like, you know, because it's about street sweeping basically, but all the cars have to go to one side of the street and sit there for 2 hours. It's really crazy, and it's like you meet your neighbors, and then the street sweeper comes, and then you all go back. You know, this is very strange. So this was. But on holidays, you don't have to do it. So you often get your ass out of bed, and you come downstairs to move your car, and then you're looking and nobody's moved, and you're like, what is it? And it turns out it's some insane holiday you've never heard of. So this was Chinese New Year. It was the year of the pig. So it is the first day of the new year. The city honors this day by not requiring us to move our cars. That was so redundant. I didn't need to say that. I ran down in flip-flops, then I looked at the app and discovered this fact. I said hi to my neighbor and stumbled up the stairs. Are you okay? She said. Yes, I said, but I felt not ashamed, but rattled. I started reading the New Yorker, which seemed so in between. I said so on Twitter, and one woman started flirting with me. I had showed my address in a photo of the magazine, and it sounded like she would be right over. I said, I have 6 kids, and my husband was a brute. My friend in Chicago laughed. And this is called March 3rd. And this too is an urban situation, because it was like a snowstorm that didn't happen and the city closed, but there was no reason. We had no snow. but you could stay in bed. The quick exchange of emails between the former lovers creates a soft hole in the day and the night before. It snowed, but it was supposed to be larger, and everything's closed. The streets are wet, I hear, and I won't step into them. One poem for today, but no, many little ones. The coffee slightly altered is good. I'm bare feet in bed, ready to work. I work in the field of dreams where I've met you many times. I feel closer to you this morning and probably last night when the doorway slightly opened because of our notes was flooded with ghosts. When I was young, I liked the emptiness of my home, and now, like it or not, here is this sweet accumulation. The cameras, all that, everything I do can't touch the single statement of breeze and loss and quaint beauty, things I've had since I was a kid, the secrets of my home. I feel condemned by this chaotic museum of stuff, and yes, I desire to photograph it, the bowls you liked, the cup you touched, and me in a t-shirt that used to be special, and now I carouse in bed with myself in it. I don't know if this will ever be different, and that is the feeling of this. I feel like a tree, the invisible part of friendship and drinking together and mourning. One empty wall is the least I can do for myself. Late at night, I enjoy the brown pages of the Cowboy Show, TV on my lap till practically dawn, interesting, written by a gambler. Oh, I have so many shows. One in Florence one day, you were taking a shower. I think I thought I loved this television. Because it's become the way to love. The road of becoming is a screen belonging on it in my dream. The excellent moments the man barges in and says, do you ever think about film? The poetry of accident haunts like a circus tent over my days, and that fades in a new one. I begin to write about dying. This story ends. It begins to be part of the plot, and do I love you for your distance from it, or could I love you because you are close, or your exciting difference, so smart? I love myself. The squeaky little voice that says, in here, owning the groove and grooving on it. No, sorry. The squeaky little voice that says, in here, owning the void and grooving on it. Voiceover, you're not so bad, and then I begin to work. My dead mother is around, my lover not far, keeping you here, not calling anyone. Is that the tub in which I die? Where do, woo, woo, woo. What's up, bird? Because I don't have kids, and this is such a blessing. Yes, there were vampires in the, for me there were a lot of vampires in the pandemic because I was basically tricked into watching True Blood by my ex, my then girlfriend, and I was like, no, I hate vampires, I have no interest, and I was like, this is amazing. And then 2 days later I had COVID and I watched all 6 seasons. So they're like, there's vampires all through this book. So this is called Beloved. Beloved Train. Vampires cry blood. Each poet is required before the time of their death to stay up and write a vampire novel, even though the light doth kill them. Daylight kills vampires, as you know. It will be a short novel. I desire to burn like Joan of Arc, being woman, man, saintly, and the flames made me something magnificent. And what was the story? A novel requires a novel, a hall, a corridor, a prismatic corridor. Human bodies are coming down while being alive, which we, the dead, watch. The candle the human lights is a tiny bell to the vampire. He comes one night and puts his cold hand in my mouth and demands that I stop changing so he can get his story out. A dog pushes against the thing in which I am lost, the book glinting in the ancient word boss, a strange globe from which spin forth the armaments of the vampire's pain. His long life, his very long life. Warrior, once housewife, next pad on a dog's toe, sore, another time maritime, always getting licked. The dog putting her damn paw onto the ground in the night before the day in which the vampire was born. He died. I have failed in my task of writing my vampire novel. I will never try again. But in the time of a global pandemic, rules have changed. No more essay portions of SATs. No more this. No more this. No more this. You started 5 past?
I think you started at 10 past, so...
Oh, cool. Amazing. Okay, great. This is a little guy, but I haven't read this one for a while. It's called Howl. And it was the first poem I ever wrote in a Zoom. Like nobody, when you're in a Zoom, nobody can see that you're not paying attention. Refrigerator, it's called Howl, I already said that. A refrigerator makes a lot of sound, so does a bird. People are always talking, full of love and pain. We started a fund, and the dogs are needing some money, and I don't know how to do it, and I'll learn from one of them. Tom's blue shirt and glasses are perfect. My t-shirt is good. My pen works, I breathe. It's like pandemic studies, but I started to realize inside a long movie you can write a poem. You just take shit, you just act like you're living there. And so Bellatar, do you know this filmmaker? 7 hours. I was just like, I wrote so many poems in that world. This one is called We. It was like you have a whole other life, you know. We'll feed you until we kill you, but if we leave, we won't feed you. Light in the rain, and the rain's pulsing, 4 dark little steps. Could that be a poodle? A dirty old poodle that's hungry? That poodle could be young once, since hunger is a great equalizer. I had faith and confidence, and here we are. As a child, I was inclined to masturbation and nose-picking. The movie's so slow, when they sleep, I want to sleep. So I don't get to bark? No, you don't. The new life, half the day eating, half the day exercising, the dog's their old roommate. This big country, his big country, bottle is woven, the ordeal of life, funnels, and his Macbeth. What remains is a half hour, and it's going to be a half hour in so many ways. This is called Cool and Bright, and this went into my local Texas newspaper. And it's so weird to live in a small town where you write a poem, it goes in the newspaper, so you're standing in line buying food, and somebody goes to that poem. It's not supposed to happen, but it's called Cool and Bright. I stand up as I do in my post shack and piss. The toilet's black, and orange moth does its last couple of flaps. It could be no worse. You okay, this is I have to read this. It's called My House, and it was when my then girlfriend, she's like a star tonight. We were in it together. So this is a bit of a flashback. I already took a picture and sent it to her. She didn't say anything. I was like, she was in the East Coast and I was in Texas, and she was like, no. And I was like, no. So I wrote this song. Put my house inside the boat. You do that. Put my dog inside your dog. Put these birds inside yours. Put my ocean. Put your ocean on my mountains. Put my mountains in there. Put my dog in yours. My dog walk is safe inside your dog walk. Let me eat inside you. Let me eat your food. Let me eat your house. Put your house inside my dog. Put your dog on my boat. Next. Put my heart in yours. Put my mouth on your mouth. Put my hair in yours. Let me breathe inside you. Let me smell your guts. Put your poke in my eye. Let me eat your friends. Put these hours inside your hours. Eat this bird cheap. Eat my dog's foot. Eat that ocean. Run to him or the ocean. Run to them. Hear these birds cheep. Fly to me, eat my foot, put my house inside yours, in your mind, think me fly. This fly me home, love me now. Forget your phone, eat my heart. Run to him or the ocean. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Dog growl, cluck, click. Put my house right in there. Yeah, that's me looking out the window. Look at me. Bark, bark, bark. Put your heart inside that bark. I'm up here talking to myself. Oh, this is September. I heard a distant girl screaming out there like an elastic. Everyone like the kitten on the boat. It's an old name for a rubber band, but a band all the same, which is nothing like a tiger that killed a kid, and later the tiger got shot. You kill me. You simply kill me. This one's called X, which at one time literally was her, I thought I gave her full name for the title of the poem, and then I thought I can't do that. But it was the right title, it was the perfect title, but then it's great, like just X. The center of the universe is here, and I continue to read about millions of stars, about ice chips along the outer rim of the solar system, and the names of moons this year, that extends along the movements of the sky, our crooked Earth and our crooked Sun, the star that isn't in the constellation of the Swan. Because we are living in a gray area now, there's no reason to assume that August 1, when Saturn and Jupiter have their last kiss, will have anything to do with you or us, and the fact that I never really needed you enough will not be so important. I look up in the sky outside your house. I have no way to read this endless black turning thing over my head that I've always loved. I think two more little guys. This is a funny, okay, yeah, I'll read, this is, really, it's about pajamas, basically. In Ireland, I went to Ireland, and I was so lonely, I bought a new pair of pajamas for myself. The ruby pajamas that I bought in Cavan, the rocky place my family came from, and that's why they drank. It was cozy, and then it seemed sad to wear pajamas, bottom and top. Ruby or maroon, dark red, so I got rid of the top and felt a little freer. More tossed when I slept, but I came around eventually to wanting the whole thing. Not fancy at all, not sad. I bought them in a men's shop. The guy was respectful and offered a small. It's the absolute fucking fact, and tonight, by complete accident, I'm wearing a ruby t-shirt, one of my favorite. I was wearing black earlier, everyone was. It was dark in the rain. So when I got home, I put on this different shirt, and I felt honestly forced by these conditions, the red t-shirt and the dark maroon pajama bottoms from Ireland, to keep to myself here, where it's all right, in all this dark red tonight. And I remember all the bright smiling we were doing on the phone earlier today, and I liked it so much. I mean, this is another subject, but sometimes you just have to work. Can I get away with anything alone in bed and my clothes match? And now one final, this is called Diet Coke. Says, recycle me. I took the dog on the subway today, and today I have an alarm on my phone called Joan Mitchell. And later on today, I said I'd be Joaning. This dog sees everything on 2nd Ave, not far, historically from where Robert Harms met Joan Mitchell in the apartment of Joseph Lesueur, right over there. I think of buildings collapsing. I'm having a slice nearby. At the party, everyone's laughing. I say, I'm boning Joan tonight. I'm boning up on Joan Mitchell for the Famous Woman Artist podcast. Honey badly wants a bite. The light just changed. It's bright. The kind of Stefan Grappelli violin playing while bicycles pass. Matthew said, I would have sobbed. The end was so good if I had authentic feelings. We laugh. I just spent an hour Zooming with my shrink, the parade of X's in Provincetown, the man in the orange cap walking away. I would cry if I wasn't so damn joyous. He's lowering the awning on the pizza shop, but these feelings just won't go away. Thank you. Is that okay?
That was fantastic, thank you, Eileen. I'm delighted you read the poem from Ireland, obviously.
Good.
I am conscious we have about 20 minutes left, so I might just fit it in half. No, we're good. Don't be chatty people on the side of the table, it'll be fine. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, I listened to this really great podcast interview you did, where you were talking about how looking at visual art taught me how to write. I feel like I write as a visual artist. And I was really struck by the cover of the collection as well. Did you say it was kind of a binder, file, folder, holder?
Yeah, it's like a shape that, like at Staples, you get those stand-up folders.
Yeah.
And I wrote poems into them for a while until it was a book. And so I really just wrote it on the outside. I was a joke I had with myself. Like I thought a working model, and a working life. And I felt like, is this the life or is the poem, which is which?
Yeah.
And so it just started as a little joke. And then I said to the publisher, look, this is the cover.
Well, I wanted to ask you why visual art is intrinsic to how you write poems. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I think lots of us, yes, sorry. I hate when people do that. I was like, put the mic up. I feel so omnipotent because I was just there that I think I'm like just mic'd naturally or something. No, I think all children are artists, absolutely. And I feel like so as a kid, I drew and painted, and I was in Catholic school, and that was how I coped. I just sat there and drew all day long. So it was my primary way of being, and it changed in college. I very deliberately, in my family, I had the older brother who was considered the smart one, and I was the dumb, creative female. And so I felt I really went to college to prove that I was smart, And then so weirdly, the drawings shifted to poems. Like instead, I would sit there spaced out in class writing poems instead of drawing everybody, And so, but I still think that the orientation is just watching and looking and gathering visual information, and then the voiceover. And so the ideal thing is comic strips, where there's a picture and then this balloon and then this, And I really feel like my poems are just are vertical comic strips, pretty much. Yeah.
I really love that idea that poems are vertical comic strips. I think that works. One of the things that, this is another collection of poetry that you've released, but I remember an earlier one you talked about how you arrived in New York in the 70s, and something that really struck me, and I think about a lot when I read your work, is something you said, which I assume was offhand, when you said that I knew I was good when you were starting out, and I really love that, and it feels so refreshing to engage with a poet who's like, no, I knew I was good, and deal with it. And I wanted to ask you, what do you love about your writing?
That's it suits me. I feel like I'm kind of like I write for an actor, which is myself, kind of. And then there's a kind of madness, I think, as we know about writing, where it's like, there's a way in which it's just listening. I feel like I'm not really so much thinking, I just get grabbed by a line, and then I just listen and kind of download and stuff. So I feel like there's a way in which I'm just servile to this practice. And so it feels very, I grew up Catholic and was encouraged to pray and all this, and so I feel like I have a spiritual life and it's poetry, and being able to hear things, and so I feel, so it's just like if you do that, then I knew I was good because it wasn't me, it felt like it was something else, like I was just kind of a radio kind of.
Like a medium, just channeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think art is that. You're like a container of stuff, and it's passing through.
Did you feel the same way about your puppet film?
That was so much fun to make, and so, but also so much about like I made these puppets when I was 9, and they're, paper mache, and did all the sewing and the whole bit. And, but, I grew up in a particular alcoholic family, and all the trauma of the family was in those little hands, in those puppets. So that now when they do something like go on a road trip in a film, they're still holding all the agony of the Myles family. So for me, the film is really heavy.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's dark. It's really dark.
It's like another vehicle, like rather than you being the medium for the poetry, the film is the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Another thing that
I'm sorry, you have so many good questions. I wish I wish we had more time because I feel like I want to hear everything.
well, I didn't want to ask about every single poem, even though I have questions for every single poem, so I'm keeping them high level. One of the things that I really loved, I was again watching a great talk you gave at the Free Library of Philadelphia, and someone asked you the sort of dreaded question of like, what's your advice to a young poet? And I really loved your answer about like, just write fearlessly, just write, just be productive, just do it, just do it, just do it. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was like, are there poems you have yet to write fearlessly? Like, are there things that you feel like you're still tapping into at this point?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess that even the different conditions of my existence, because it's always changing, and so everything, I'm trying to figure out what the poem of that is, like I'm working on a big novel project right now, and I feel like it's sucking up all the space, and I sort of don't know how to be in a weird way, and I'm trying to figure out how to write with that, so it's like, it's always a problem.
Yeah. But a creative problem.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing better to do, honestly.
Can you tell us about the novel project, or are you keeping it hush?
I mean, it's called All My Loves. And so it did start with just bits and pieces, like having lived with a lot of different people, or not that many, but a number of them. And most of my partners were civilizing. Like my mother didn't like us in the kitchen, she didn't teach me to cook, she didn't want me around. She used me I had to wash dishes, I had some chores, but there was nothing, I wasn't given any agency. And so girlfriends have told, do this, don't do that, use this, don't use that, And so I carry all these habits. So I started with this idea of just doing kind of a compendium of habits from relationships. And then it started to go deeper because I realized there were things I had never dealt with, like sexual violence. And then that led to sexual violence and war, which is really interesting because, I never can get over the statistic that rape was not a war crime until 1949. And I was like, what was it before that? It's like, so I brought in, so I'm sort of doing some research. And then in response to, I've learned to say Knausgaard, because I was in Norway recently and I said something about Knausgaard, and everybody just looked at me and I thought, I'm sure you know who he is. And they were like, oh, Knausgaard. It's like, but anyway, Knausgaard wrote these giant books, and I thought, I could write a fucking giant book. So I'm writing a 1,000-page novel. So that's all you need to know.
Do you have an idea when we can expect it, or is it in
2 or 3 years, I hope. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to send it out to the audience. I'm giving a wee heads up to whoever is sort of in the
And
room.
I love that you say we every time you say it. I'm so moved.
Because this is a working life, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how has your understanding of your own work evolved over time? Whether that's through different novels versus poetry, whether it's through different collections, or has it just remained solid because you knew you were good?
Well, I guess it's weird. I'm going to contradict myself because I do feel like it's all the same thing. Like a film is the same as a novel, is the same as a poem, is the same as an essay, is the same as teaching. I feel like it's all, if you start to have a practice, it's all one practice. And I think I have to remind myself of that when I get nervous and think I'm having a hard time with something. And I was like, come on, it's just a big poem, maybe make it easy.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay.
I'm going to steal your microphone
great.
as the roving mic. Is there a burning question? Is there a burning question in the audience, or I will start with the person online? Yes, and then I will go to you. So, from Kara, which probably connects to that, how do you know whether an idea is a poem, a novel, or something else, and whether an idea does or doesn't have legs?
Oh my God.
Well, I think you know if it doesn't have legs, if you don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the thing that if you have a good idea and you feel filled with it and you have energy, you should just move on it quickly as possible. Because I feel like I'm very distracted and I feel like I can get a good idea, but if I don't jump on it in some fashion, it just sort of goes away or there's some other good idea that replaces it. So I feel like the thing that's important, I feel like, is to act on it, and the things that, even if they seem ludicrous, to go ahead and you know, it has legs by you giving it attention more than anything. And I think it's really clear if something's a poem or a novel or a, you know, I mean, they're really different kinds of work, I think. You know, I think a novel is like being buried alive. It's horrible, you know. But it's sort of like, so when you want to be buried alive with this, you know, it's kind of like you have to bring a light into your tomb. You know? The thing I don't know about is plays. I don't think I've written plays, but I think they're bad. I don't think I know how to write a play. I think it's art. You know, they understand space and time, and moving people through it. And I just did I touch it?
I think it died.
It does.
Is this one?
Hello.
Is this one? They both.
They just keep we're going to share. I don't quite remember what that thought was, but it was a good one. I've got the mic back.
All right, we'll bounce this one back and forth. There you go. I mean, my question was kind of similar to the one from online, but I guess looking off of that, you in Afterglow, jumping off of what you just said, that you haven't written a play, in Afterglow you have this really great chapter that's like a screenplay almost.
It's a screenplay.
Yeah, a screenplay. Does that feel vastly different from a play to you?
A dynamic. Yes, a screenplay is more like a poem. Yeah, it's really crazy with a screenplay. Like I wrote a screenplay and I showed it to somebody and they said, I thought there'd be lots of cups of coffee. And I was like, oh, they are. There are. And she goes, but you didn't put them in the screenplay. Like, you have to put everything there. It's entirely like, it's sort of like, there's no, because with poetry, you say something and you imagine they think of a picture. And then you say something else. You know, you're really making the reader work. The screenplay is like all fed, which is a whole different, but it's actually like drawing. It's a very thorough practice, and it's really fun. They're really fun to write.
Is someone else in the room?
I'm going to run the mic to you. Wherever you
No, or you can just shout. Actually, the acoustics in here, right?
Well, we could go back to talking. So we're doing good.
Did you have more time?
Yeah.
Unless somebody, well, let's get.
And I will check online.
Is there somebody thinking, fuck, I wanted to ask a question? Yes.
How's Mark on this time of year?
Well, you would say, I'm not there, I'm here. Like right now is an amazing time in Marfa. Well, both weather, the fall is incredibly beautiful there, and it's still kind of mild. And the Chinati Foundation, which you probably heard, is Donald Judd, the sculptor, and they have a week. Like Marfa's like 2,000 people, and then it blows up at certain festival moments. And so right now, it's like Kim Gordon is playing here tomorrow night, and Zoe Leonard has a big opening, and Natalie Diaz is reading. It's kind of amazing. It's like a really good festival. The other good thing is you go in June, there's something called the Agave Festival, which is even cooler than Chinati, and it's about the region, it's about the land, and the border, and politics, and poetry, and it's so smart and rich, and that's sometime, maybe early June, that's a good time to go. It could be hot, but you can handle it.
Okay, there is another one from online from Jean, who says, following on from that, how does place affect your writing? Could you have been you as a poet without New York?
No. No, because I have needed to meet other poets. I mean, for me, I really thrive. I mean, I'm like, we're all, as artists or writers, I love to be alone, and stuff. But the coming together of people of my generation and going to readings and hearing people and being told to read this, and it was just the whole collective thing was really so valuable for me because I just was sort of lost and tragic. I didn't realize how much fun poetry could be, and I think a group provokes humor, I think, and all sorts of, an array of feelings. And, it's a culture. Poetry's a culture. Writing's a culture, I think.
Anyone else? Okay, 18, you're up.
Well, actually, riffing off of that, I was curious about, like, you know, you're saying that New York is so intrinsic to how you began as a poet, and obviously you're sort of split between New York and Marfa and Texas now. And my question was, do you have any rituals or habits that you follow when you're writing? Whether that's like, you have to have like a certain sort of series of tasks in the morning, or whether it's like you write differently in New York or in Marfa, like how does that feel to you?
I have an ideal one that you know is like, you know, waking up and drinking coffee and reading a little bit and then getting some exercise, like running or doing yoga, and then meditating and then eating and then being like perfect Eileen and putting that, you know, making that person sit down, you know, because I basically unloaded my body, you know, because I feel like the problem with writing is being physically restless, you know, and it's like I have to get to where I'm not. But the thing is, sometimes I'll be doing that like all day, and it's like 2 o'clock and I'm feeling really good, you know, I was like, I didn't work yet, you know, and so then I get really disgusted. So my other one is really deprivation, where it's so good, and I've used it, like I've used it in Inferno. I wrote the whole middle section by doing this, which is like, get up, create your coffee source, your caffeine source, bring it to the bed, and stay in bed until you write. You know, like just make yourself, your hot, self-loathing body, just like pump it out. And I did that recently because I just got really impatient with my leisurely practice. And it was how I cut through something really difficult. So I feel like it's like you really have to, I mean, sometimes it's like, this, I haven't worked all day long and I'm in bed and I think I want to watch another X-Files episode. And I was like, why don't you just look at that thing that you're not wanting to look at. And then I'll, you know, I mean, this is not often, but sometimes I can work at night in a really kind of not unintentional way. So I feel like I use whatever there is. Like I always think, Jack Halberstam said something really great, which was that I only work 10 minutes at a time, which I think is a fucking lie. But what Jack meant was not going through all that bullshit of preparation, but I'm just going to work 10 minutes. And if I can always work 10 minutes. And if I sit down to work 10 minutes, I might work 2 hours. It's just that it's like tricking myself is the trick.
Anyone in the room? If not, there's a, oh yeah, there's one here.
You were just adjusting your mask?
No. Okay. Sorry. Oh, there is one. There's one in the back.
Hi, I wanted to ask, you've been kind of alluding to this idea of being like snowed under, especially by a novel. So when like writing a big piece of prose and being like completely buried by that.
Being completely what?
Buried by that. I wanted to ask you if there is an equilibrium that you can find. I'm feeling that at the moment, being snowed under. Is there an equilibrium? Is there a middle ground between writing and living?
That's really I don't know. I mean, I feel like there are seasons. That's what I think. I mean, when I think about feeling snowed under or being buried alive or in these exaggerated ways I was saying about how, but it is true that you sort of, it's like world making. If you're working on a big writing project, you really have to get to a place where you really believe in that and you're in it and you don't mind, you're sort of operating from inside there and stuff. And it's not necessarily appealing to other people. You know, and it's hard to be in a relationship when you're doing that kind of work siege. You know, but the thing is, it's not forever. It's sort of like it really does. The books end, you get to the end of sections, and then you take a break, and then you know, it's sort of like, I think you have to know that there's an outside to be inside, I think. You know, but I think there is a rhythm. It's just, I think you just have to trust that you won't be in there always, you know. And you're sort of writing your way out, I think. I think that's right now I feel like I have to be on the, you know, shut the fuck up Eileen tour and just stay home, you know, and just be in it, you know, because I'm going to be writing this book for the rest of my life if I don't do that. But like, I know that I'll end it if I do it, you know.
There's another one from online. Connor asks, if you were going to be commissioned to edit a collection or anthology of something, what theme would you pick or what writers would you want to work with?
I can't answer that question because I already did it. I just, I edited a book called Pathetic Literature, and it came out 2 or 3 years ago, and that was my obsession, which seemed to really describe most of the writing that I liked. I thought were pathetic. I like pathetic sex in reality, perhaps. In writing, I mean, that's like, I love, bad, awkward, weird sex, and just, people's, writing that isn't, delivering the punch of, like arcs and, realizations and epiphanies, and, I don't write that. It's like, it isn't like that. I mean, when I was trying to sell Chelsea Girls to publishers, they were like, these stories just kind of fall apart. And I was like, yeah. And I believe in decay and disintegration and loss and renewal and all that. And so, so I have made that anthology. So I don't think I have I do think there was a second volume though, too pathetic. Like I think the people I feel bad about, they're on in it. I was like, no, we have a volume for you. It's too pathetic. Too pathetic is fine. And it was like the only other anthology I ever did was the new Fuck You, and we were gonna do the new Fuck You too, but it didn't happen.
Is there one last burning question in the room?
Or one cool. Oh my God, it's always it's you.
Just from your readings, I can see that you cover such a wide array of topics, and talking about your stories that don't go anywhere, that don't have the arcs. My question is there a topic or an object of study that you find just too boring to write about?
We had weird time. No, I don't think so. I think boring. I mean, I like boredom more and more as I live. And I used to hate repetition and doing things again. Like I couldn't see the point. And now I get it. I feel like I love doing the same thing over and over again. And so I think that's like in my work and it's in my life. And I sort of, I thought it was so funny. I thought you were going to say, is there anything you can't write about? And I think there are things. It's interesting. There are things you really can't write about. Really, other people's secrets that you feel like you really can't. That's not yours to write about. I have things in my family that were so fucked up, but I feel like that's not my story. I can't touch it. And even things I've done, I can't talk about what it is. There are things I've done that are illegal, and I get me in trouble, and I get somebody else in trouble. And so I can't ever write about it, and they're so funny, so funny. Crimes.
There was one more at the back. Do you want to shout it out?
I'm walking to you. Private conversation.
These questions have been really good. But I was wondering, I'm very interested in the earlier when you were talking about the way that your poem called X. And I was interested in the titling of your poems.
You're interested
In like the titling of your poems, like the process in which you like pick like a singular word or a singular phrase in which to title this entire stream of consciousness.
I feel like titles are the most important part of the poem in a way, except that there are those poems that don't have titles. And that's so interesting. You're like, ooh, It's sort of like, and it might be a sequence, and then it always suggests that it's sort of spiritual or of some other order or something. But I do think that it's like me standing up there and not having any light. Like the title, I think, is like the influence outside of it's a part of the poem that's outside of the poem that sheds onto it, and it's like this whole organizing thing. Like if you say the dog, everything you know about dogs opens up, and then you go into the poem looking for the dog, and this, something has to happen, and that's pretty narrative sounding, but I think it's true. At least the mind kind of looks for stuff. So I think, but it's great because you can call your poem anything. It's very much a statement of power, I think. you know, and you can have a fake, I think it's also true, you can have a fake bad title, and just a working title, and then you write your poem and you think that's not the title, you know, and you get rid of it. And also sometimes you have a line that you really love, and you can pull it out and kick it upstairs and make it be the title, and I think that can also work. Thank you.
I think that's it.
Thank you all so much. Eileen is going to be at the signing table, so please do form an orderly queue. And otherwise, thank you all for coming. Thank you everybody online for watching. Have a